This was today.
We love Shedeur, and the way he carries himself in the locker room, he's one of the guys. He's always around everybody. He's always talking to everybody. He's always, just in the mix. And so all these bad things that you heard about Shedeur before the draft is trash. There's people trying to tear down his name, and that's not who he was at all. And I know other quarterbacks that are like that, and that's not him. And so that's why, I'll always stand up for him, because it's not fair for him to be having this negative.
Why would you say that if that wasn't like? I mean, I know he's just breaking the ice.
He's one of your quarterbacks now. That's why.
Yeah, we tried to draft you, but now probably you're my starting quarterback. That's okay.
So
he was a starting
Deshaun Watson
quarterback.
beats you out.
If that's what happens, we'll see. Deshaun's still coming back from injury. Jeff, I can feel your energy, your excitement, your love, and you can get the energy.
A Shedeur Sanders teammate just crushed the entire media narrative about what's happening in the Cleveland Browns locker room, and what he revealed is absolutely going to blow your mind. The media has been trying to paint Shedeur as a divisive presence, someone who doesn't fit in, someone who's causing problems. But this teammate just went on record and said everything you've been hearing is trash. And here's the wildest part. This isn't just some random player defending him. This is someone who's in that locker room every single day, who sees how Shedeur carries himself, who knows the real story that the media refuses to tell. But it doesn't stop there, because what also just came out is going to change everything you thought you knew about Shedeur Sanders' journey to Cleveland, his relationship with Todd Monken, and why this entire situation was orchestrated from the very beginning. Let me break down what's really happening, because by the end of this, you're going to understand that Shedeur Sanders isn't just a player in Cleveland, he's running the entire operation.
I'd have been on Zoom calls, interviews. Shedeur is the most down-to-earth athlete I have ever met. Right hand to God. Right hand to God. I got hours upon hours of footage of Shedeur that I have never, ever released. Cool, bruh. Cool as a fan. What you see is what you get. Now, for these people to be painting a narrative about Shedeur that don't even know him, let alone been in the room with him.
All right, so let's start with what just dropped today, because this is massive. One of Shedeur Sanders' teammates, an actual Cleveland Browns player who's in that locker room every single day, just did an interview where he completely demolished the media narrative about Shedeur. And when I say demolished, I mean he didn't hold back. He didn't sugarcoat it. He straight up called out all the negativity and said it's trash. Here's exactly what he said, word for word. We love Shedeur and the way he carries himself in the locker room. He's one of the guys. He's always around everybody. He's always talking to everybody. He's always just in the mix. And so all the bad things that you heard about Shedeur before the draft is trash. It was people trying to tear down his name, and that's not who he was at all. And I know other quarterbacks that are like that, and that's not him. And so that's why I'll always stand up for him, because it's not fair for him to be having this negative outline of himself when that's not him. He's a great kid, and I'm excited to see what his future holds. Pause. Let that sink in for a second. A teammate, someone who's actually in the building with Shedeur every single day, someone who sees how he interacts with players, how he prepares, how he leads, and he's saying that everything you've been hearing from the media is complete trash. Now, why is this significant? Because the media has been running with this narrative for months that Shedeur is selfish, that he's entitled, that he's a diva, that he doesn't fit in with his teammates. But here's the problem with that narrative. None of his teammates have ever said that. Not at Colorado, not in Cleveland. Nobody who's actually been in a locker room with Shedeur Sanders has ever come out and said anything negative about him. The only people saying negative things are media members who have never been in the same room as him, analysts who have never spoken to him, reporters who are just regurgitating hot takes for clicks. And now, one of his teammates is calling them out directly, saying it's not fair that Shedeur has to deal with this negative perception when that's not who he is.
Because all the young man want to do is go out there and perform for his name's sake. And for them to turn down Coach Prime for being a positive black father is beyond me. Because when the Mannings did it, ain't nobody say shit. But when it come to the black man, the black father, they want to say something. He did everything he had to do to make sure his son reached the levels we see him at today. Now, as a father...
Now, let me add something to this because I think it's important. The person breaking this story said something that really hit home. He said, there's a lot of people that make videos about Shedeur who don't even know Shedeur. There's a lot of people that want to judge Shedeur's character. Now, I'm not saying I know Shedeur where I can pick up the phone and call him, but I have been around Shedeur. I have been in rooms with Shedeur, and I can personally say, I can't speak for no other content creators, but I can speak for me. Shedeur is the coolest athlete I've met, and I've met a lot of them. I've done Zoom calls, interviews. Shedeur is the most down-to-earth athlete I have ever met. Right hand to God. Right hand to God. Now think about that. This is someone who's been around professional athletes, college athletes, high-level talent, and he's saying Shedeur is the most down-to-earth person he's ever encountered. But the media doesn't want to talk about that. They don't want to highlight the fact that everyone who actually knows Shedeur has nothing but positive things to say about him. Why? Because it doesn't get clicks. It doesn't drive engagement. It doesn't fuel controversy. So instead, they make up stories. They create narratives. They tear him down. And that's disgusting. Now, let me address something else that was brought up, because this is where it gets really important. The person breaking this story said, for them to turn down Coach Prime for being a positive black father is beyond me, because when the Mannings did it, ain't nobody say nothing. But when it come to the black man, the black father, they want to say something. Facts. Think about it. Archie Manning was heavily involved in Peyton and Eli's careers. He guided them. He gave them advice. He helped them navigate the NFL draft process. And nobody said a word. Nobody called Peyton or Eli entitled. Nobody said they were riding their dad's coattails. Nobody questioned whether they deserved their success. But when Shedeur Sanders does the exact same thing for Shedeur, suddenly it's a problem. Suddenly he's being too involved. Suddenly Shedeur is getting special treatment. Why is that? I'll tell you why. Because there's a double standard in this league when it comes to black fathers supporting their sons. When white fathers do it, it's called mentorship. When black fathers do it, it's called nepotism. And that's the truth that nobody wants to talk about. But Shedeur's teammate just called it out, and I'm calling it out too. Because Shedeur Sanders did everything he had to do to make sure his son reached the level we see him at today. And there's nothing wrong with that.
Let's listen to the play-by-play guy. The play-by-play guy, Nathan, talking about the hiring of the new head coach of the Cleveland Browns, Todd Monken. Nathan, let's listen to him.
Excellent offensive mind. Good with quarterbacks, good with developing quarterbacks. And I think that's the biggest thing that we've needed. And I think his experience, 37 years as a coach that we talked about, his experience as a play caller in the National Football League, is kind of how the Browns landed on him. And I think it's that experience that gives him an edge, you know, over a guy like a Nate Shieldhouse who would have come in here.
Now, let's talk about what's really happening behind the scenes in Cleveland, because this is where the story gets wild. The person breaking this news said he believes that Shedeur Sanders played a pivotal role in the hiring of Todd Monken as head coach. And honestly, I think he's absolutely right. Here's why. When Jimmy Haslam, franchise quarterback, wants, and I think he chose the latter, I think Jimmy Haslam sat down with Shedeur Sanders and asked him, who do you want to work with? Who do you want developing you? Who do you trust? And Shedeur said, Todd Monken. Now, let me give you the evidence for why I think this is true. Todd Monken was the offensive coordinator and quarterback coach at Georgia when Shedeur Sanders had an offer from them in high school. Georgia, one of the best programs in college football, and Todd Monken was recruiting Shedeur. Then, when Monken went to Baltimore as the offensive coordinator, he tried to get the Ravens to draft Shedeur. So this man has been trying to coach Shedeur Sanders since he was in high school. And now, he's the head coach in Cleveland, and Shedeur is his quarterback. That's not a coincidence. The person breaking this story said it perfectly. What a coincidence that Monken was also the offensive coordinator when Baltimore wanted to draft him. Make of that what you will. Personally, I call it perfect timing. Perfect timing. Now, let's talk about the elephant in the room, the media criticism. Cleveland media has been relentless in their criticism of Shedeur Sanders. They've questioned his leadership, they've questioned his ability, they've questioned whether he even deserves to be on the roster. But here's the thing they don't want to talk about. Shedeur Sanders came out of high school with offers from Alabama, Florida State, Georgia, LSU, Michigan, Oregon, some of the biggest programs in college football. If he was so trash, why were all these elite programs recruiting him? The person breaking this story pulled up Shedeur's offer list and went through it one by one. Alabama, yes. Arizona State, yes. Florida State, yes. Baylor, yes. Georgia, yes. LSU, yes. Michigan, yes. Oregon, yes. These are all elite programs. But you know what school wasn't on that list? Ohio State. Now, I'm not saying that has anything to do with why Cleveland media has been so critical, but it's interesting, isn't it? The state of Ohio, the state where Cleveland is located, never showed love to Shedeur when he was coming up. They never recruited him, they never believed in him. And now that he's in their city, they're still trying to tear him down. Here's what I think is really going on. Shedeur Sanders represents a shift in power in Cleveland. He's not just a player, he's a movement. He's got influence, he's got a platform, and he's got the support of his teammates. And that scares the media, because they're used to controlling the narrative. They're used to being the ones who decide who gets praised and who gets criticized. But Shedeur doesn't need them. He's got his own media presence. He's got his own brand. He's got his own voice. And now, with Todd Monken as head coach and Travis Switzer as offensive coordinator, Shedeur's got a coaching staff that believes in him. The media can't control that, and it's driving them crazy.
Shedeur. Shut their ass.
We love Shedeur, and the way he carries himself in the locker room, he's one of the guys. You know, he's always around everybody. He's always talking to everybody. He's always, just in the mix. And so all these bad things that you heard about Shedeur before the draft is trash. It was people trying to tear down his name, and that's not who he was at all. And I know other quarterbacks that are like that, and that's not him. And so that's why, I'll always stand up for him, because it's not fair for him to be having this negative, outline of himself when that's not him.
Let me also address something that the person breaking this story said, because it's important. He said, "There's a new day in Cleveland. There's a new mayor in town. I promise you, when this information comes out, Jimmy Haslam's got a press conference coming. I bet you $1 million he's going to get up there and say Shedeur played a pivotal role in me choosing Todd Monken." Now, we don't know if that's going to happen yet, but if it does, game over. Because that would confirm what a lot of us have been saying, that Shedeur Sanders isn't just a player in Cleveland. He's a decision maker. He's someone the organization values and listens to. And that's exactly how it should be. Because Shedeur is the future of this franchise. He's the guy they're building around. So why wouldn't you ask him who he wants to work with? Now, let me bring this back to the bigger picture. The teammate who defended Shedeur said something that really stuck with me. He said, "When your dad's Dion, I feel like a lot of people want to hate on you." And that's exactly what's happening. People see Deion Sanders, one of the greatest athletes of all time, and they assume his son is getting everything handed to him. They assume he doesn't have to work as hard. They assume he's riding his dad's coattails. But that's not the truth. Shedeur Sanders has worked for everything he's got. He's earned his spot in the league. He's earned the respect of his teammates. He's earned the opportunity to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. And anyone who says otherwise is either ignorant or jealous. Here's what I need you to understand. Shedeur Sanders is not the problem in Cleveland. He's not a distraction. He's not a diva. He's not entitled. He's a leader. He's a competitor. He's someone his teammates respect and admire, and the only people who have a problem with him are the ones who don't actually know him. The media can write all the hit pieces they want. They can question his ability. They can criticize his dad. They can try to tear him down. But at the end of the day, his teammates have his back. His coaches believe in him, and his organization is building around him, and that's all that matters. Now, I want to ask you something, and I really want you to think about this before you comment. Do you think Shedeur Sanders played a role in the hiring of Todd Monken? Do you think Jimmy Haslam asked him who he wanted to work with? Because if he did, and I think he did, that means Shedeur has more power and influence in Cleveland than most rookies could ever dream of. And honestly, good for him, because he's earned it. He put in the work. He's dealt with the criticism. He's handled the pressure. And now he's in a position where he can actually help shape the future of the franchise. That's not entitlement. That's leadership. So, there you have it. A Shedeur Sanders teammate just went on record and destroyed the media narrative, saying everything you've heard about Shedeur is trash. He's one of the guys. He's a leader. He's down to earth, and his teammates love him. Meanwhile, the evidence keeps mounting that Shedeur played a major role in Todd Monken getting hired, because Monken's been chasing Shedeur since high school. This isn't just about football anymore. This is about Shedeur Sanders running Cleveland, and the media can't stand it. If you think Shedeur's teammate is right and the media is wrong, drop a W in the comments. If you think the criticism is fair, let me know why. And don't forget to subscribe, because we're covering every single move Shedeur makes in Cleveland. Hit that bell. Let's dominate.